everybody. It's Steve Fretzin. Welcome back to the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. We are here for your amusement, entertainment, and education on everything legal, business development, marketing, wellness, content creation, you name it. We've got it. 430 plus shows that we've done in just under 5 years, and we are continuing to bring you great guests. And I've got one for you today. No surprise. David, how's it going, man?
Doing well. How are you? I guess I have to entertain, right? The way you
Yeah, you
teed
better
this.
be entertaining, or I'm gonna just like hit mute and just talk through you the whole time because I'm entertaining. No. But yeah, we want to have some fun with this, right? Just like we do in real life.
Definitely.
You listen to podcasts, it's like, there's people that just, drive you to tears with boredom, and there's people that have great conversations that you just want to hear what are they gonna say next?
Right. And no dead air. I'm not gonna take any credit for
No dead
pauses, I
air. And then let's
promise.
pause for 5 seconds. Give dead air. No, I think sometimes a pause is okay. I'm not afraid of a little silence. They say also, like in a successful marriage, it's okay just to be quiet together. Sometimes I don't
I need
mind
to work on that.
that. There are people that try to fill like I'm not gonna say my mother-in-law. We'll say someone that I'm related to, not my mother-in-law, that like fills the space, and that's fine. But it's like, it's okay just to chew and to to be quiet and
At
for a moment.
Depeche Mode, their famous song, Enjoy the Silence.
Enjoy the silence. Exactly. Exactly. So listen, man, I want to start off as I love to do with the quotas show. Now, you've got one of the most unique quotes because it's something I'd heard before, and your grandfather must have heard before, because it's like an old joke, maybe from like the Marx Brothers eras or something like that. And it's, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. And that's something your grandfather used to say?
Yeah, so my grandfather he was a real hard ass, tough love, but he was really funny too. And he had this character side to him. And he would call me Big Old Davy. And he would just have quotes or songs and he would repeat them. And that's one. And I know he didn't coin it, but it seems like he did. He'd go,
Yeah.
Davy,
It
I'd
might be,
rather
that
have
might be
a bottle in
might be a
front.
lookup situation too.
Yes. I'd
Well,
rather
he
have
said
a bottle in front of me than a frontal
he thought it was
lobotomy.
attributed to Dorothy Parker. I don't even, who's Dorothy Parker?
That's who it is. I don't know, but sounds
We
like a
just know that it
stage.
might be attributed to her.
Right,
All
right.
right.
And
Well, that might be a look it up situation, but it's just a great quote because it's funny. Is there something deeper than that or no?
no,
No, that's all on the surface. That's your
there isn't.
grandfather was all up here. There's nothing down there.
Well, yeah, maybe he had his own depth to it, but when he said it, I just laughed.
But like I could see like the Marx Brothers like doing a routine, or like the Three Stooges or something saying that type of a quote.
Oh, right. And then
You
the
know,
bottle hitting people.
yeah, well, right. And then a bottle hit the
Right.
head. Right.
Need a
It's
prop.
funny. My late great father, Larry the lawyer, used to give me a hard time when I was a teenager for watching like animated cartoons and stuff like that, which by the way have become like a big deal now, right? They're making major motion pictures that are animated. And he used to call me a dummy and what am I, an idiot? What am I, a baby? His favorite show was The Three Stooges. And, I did love The Three Stooges growing up, but I'll have to tell you, there's nothing dumber than The Three Stooges. There's nothing dumber.
But it
Maybe
wasn't
maybe the movie Dumb and Dumber might be dumber than The Three Stooges.
right, right. But since it was live action, not animated, there you go.
Well, I guess he
That
was
was
more
his line.
mature than me because it was in person or real people. David Telisman, you're the president of David Telisman Communications, and you and I are in a provisors group together here in the Chicagoland area. You are the master of all content, and so I wanted you to come on the show and really talk about, the things you do, but more importantly, educate us on the importance of content. I'm a huge, huge fan of content creation. I'm doing it all the time, doing it right now, just talking to you. But give us a little background how you came to be and why content was kind of your jam.
Sure. So my background is in professional writing. I started off as a journalist, then actually taught high school English for 2 years, taught writing, taught literature, and then transitioned into corporate communications. And when I was in that space, I wrote business proposals, I created internal, external marketing, and learned a lot about many different industries and wrote to many different industry audiences. And I got to a point, it was almost 8 years ago, where I had come to Jesus moment. I wasn't happy where I was working, and I needed to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I came very close to going back into education, teaching, which was a terrific experience. But I knew that if I didn't kind of take the road of most resistance and give myself permission to be an entrepreneur, I would regret it.
Yeah.
And I figured, I know how to write. I need to learn how to sell. I know what content is and why it's important. And I started to really get involved with the small business community and realize, hey, there's a huge need here for these businesses to market themselves better.
Yeah.
And
And
that's how.
so then, yeah, what's the makeup of your business? Like how, like what's, if the make model shape of companies that you work with?
Right. So small businesses, mid-sized, large businesses, mainly small businesses, because those are the circles I run in.
Yeah.
Different industries. I have a niche in the mental health care space. That's a personal passion of mine, is mental health awareness and advocacy. And a business owner will come to me because they have a website that isn't working for them, that hasn't been nurtured with new content like blogs and articles, case studies. They've tried the DIY marketing approach, which we know doesn't work because they have a business to run, and they'll do that at the expense of business development. And they're very stretched thin, right? They have to do their own networking, and they'll be at an event. And I mean, you've probably experienced this where you meet someone at whatever networking event and they do a very good job communicating what they do and their value proposition. But then when you look at them online, you realize there's this chasm between their in-person brand and their online brand. And that's where we come in, is we really bridge that.
Yeah. You know what I noticed? People that do terribly in networking to brand themselves and then also are terrible at branding themselves online. How about that?
Yeah, that's
I probably see more of that than I see what you said, but
that's when
uh,
they could use a coach.
well, that's why you and I are talking. That's why we're doing this. We're trying to help people who are great at what they do, but they don't convey that. They're. I mean, maybe that's a great lead into why do you think professionals struggle to convey their message or to put out content or to put themselves out in front? Is that what's going on in their mindset?
Well, a lot of the time they're they're just in it. They're too close to it to understand how someone on the outside would want to be educated on what they do, right?
Yeah,
And they also don't know what they don't know. I often say that the commonality between a business that lags in marketing and one that excels in it is that they could both do better. But again, the people I work with are those who they understand the value of marketing, but they don't know the what, they don't know the tactics,
yeah,
they don't know the strategy.
yeah. I would say it's probably 60% poor time management or overworking within their space. And obviously this shows for lawyers. So lawyers know, the billable hour and the rat race and the hamster wheel that they're on and how difficult it is to do marketing and business development when you're on the wheel. And then the second part is to your point, what they don't know. And they know they can present somewhere. They know they can attend a conference. They know they can publish an article. Getting it done and getting it in how they leverage that content is the beast, I think.
Right. And also, they are the business owner, they're the subject matter expert. And so there's always that issue of letting go of control, right? I mean, as business owners, it's key to know how to leverage resources, ask for help, and take that help and receive it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
then act.
I think perfectionism plays a role. I think procrastination plays a role. It's like, I'll get to it. Uh, round to it. So when I used to have a guy who would talk about procrastination, he had these little round coins that said to it. It was a round to it. And he used to throw them at us and say, "Hey, this is, this is you telling me you're going to get around to it." It was a kitschy little thing he did. Um, but ultimately, some things probably need to be done, by the individual lawyer looking to market and brand. And then there's a lot that can be delegated. I think we're going to come back to that in a few minutes, but what's your opinion then on the most important forms of content marketing? There's a lot of different directions that a lawyer or law firm could go. And do you have any way of sort of ferreting it down to like what might work best?
Sure. And I work with attorneys, I work with some different firms. And as a writer, I'm always going to highlight written content. But
Mhm.
although, I will give recognition to video, it is the number one form of content marketing. But blogging is number two and has remained so for several years. And with attorneys, I find is that they are not they don't have a blog necessarily, they don't have a newsletter, they're not active on social media. And those clients who I work with, we're writing 2 to 4 original blog posts every month, and we're not just publishing them, right? We need to make sure that we're reaching every member of the relevant audience. So we're marketing it on social, on their LinkedIn, on their Facebook, or wherever they are, and we're sending the email campaign out for each one, so that we're also hitting all of their contacts and their email. And it when it works, which it often does, you could be I say you could be in more place, you could be in many places at once. You could be at your provisor's meeting, but you could also be networking in the cloud right online because your content is being shared and it's being circulated.
Yeah. Is it better to focus on blogging your content on your website, or like I do that, but I also write for Above the Law, which is a pretty large legal online publication. So I'm not getting like the SEO and the stuff that would happen if it was on my blog, on my website, but I'm getting the attraction of people that, especially in the small firm realm, that might see my articles, read it, and want to connect with me. Do you have opinions about the PR value versus the self-publishing value of of a blog or an article?
Well, it all comes down to are people contacting you, right? So when you're writing for a publication and you're seeing traction, there you go. When it comes to SEO, you always want to be driving traffic to your website, right? Which is why some people might have a separate blog website, which that doesn't always work, or they might make the mistake of putting the entire text of their blog post on LinkedIn, but then you're not giving them a reason to click on the link and go to your website. And
Hmm.
the more traffic you generate, the more visible you are in the search engines.
Yeah. And what about, so we mentioned blogs, we mentioned video being important. You want to take just another minute on video?
Sure, video is, you know, it's pretty ubiquitous and it could be applied through just about every channel imaginable. We're talking social media, so you could post written content too, but people are drawn to video, short video, like short video. If you've seen the YouTube shorts, and people process information differently. You have readers and you have people who will see a video, and in that short amount of time, if it's produced well, they'll understand who you are, what you do, and why you should work with this person or be interested in what they do.
Yeah. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of podcasting, and I've probably helped a dozen other professionals in legal and out of legal get into podcasts. And from a standpoint of that content, any thoughts about that and how that can be leveraged?
Right. And you could definitely speak to it too. The more content that you're creating, and as long as it's good, the better. But podcasts have just really grown in popularity. And what's interesting is, and this is kind of a juxtaposition. I was just talking about video and short video. With podcasts, the longer form podcasts tend to be the ones that people are most engaged in. So you might want to expand your podcast to like 3 hours. I have all day.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say no to that.
but also
I used to
with
listen to 3 hour podcasts like Joe Rogan and all that, and I completely gave up on long podcasts because I was having to listen to them over like a week. And I just kind of was in and out and in and out and in and out. And I was like, you know what? 30, 45 minutes is now kind of my jam.
or just drive to Chicago and you could listen to 10 of them.
Well, right. The traffic, you could spend the whole day in that car. Um, but I think, there's video content that will be created of you and I doing this podcast. There's a transcript that can be, tailored down into an article that can be used as a blog or a post. There can be short videos created. There could be an audio if we want to. Obviously, there's the audio podcast, but there could also be like highlight clips of audio if we wanted to do that. So I think there's just a lot of different ways to leverage or to create content. We've talked about a number of them. The problem is, I think it's how to do it effectively. Can you speak to what you're doing for your clients and how that's helping them to be effective to not only get their brand built, but let's even drive it into like ROI and how does it get them business?
Sure. And you just mentioned something that's really critical is the repurposing of content, right? The example of your podcast where you have the transcript, you have the video, that's really important too. Um, so with my clients, where their audience find the most value and benefit is being educated by the blogs that they're reading or the client success stories or the newsletters or whatever. And having, when they read something, the goal is they feel smarter because of it, right? There's these takeaways. And so with my attorney clients, for example, if their audience is the consumer, what we've found, we see lots of positive outcomes. And as far as the ROI goes, definitely more impressions online, more views, more shares, high open rates, click-through rates, and then there's conversion, there's lead generation. My clients they've told me because of this blog post, someone reached out and I signed them, or I was referred because of that. And that's the best ROI, right? Is someone wins business.
Yeah.
And it's great ROI because a new client is a lot more, it's a lot more money than what I'm charging them.
Yeah.
So
Well, and the other thing is, I think we have to understand with marketing that it's a marathon, not a sprint. You might get a sprint outcome of a new piece of business, but like I wrote for the Chicago Daily Law Bulletin here in Chicago for 8 years. Can I tell you I got a ton of business from it? The answer is no. However, you take that in conjunction with a podcast, in conjunction with my YouTube channel, Steve Fretzin on YouTube, everybody. You take that in conjunction with, my social media presence, and it all adds up. It's like people are seeing me everywhere. And they're like, "Oh, Steve, I'm seeing you everywhere." Well, yeah, because I'm going for that, right? But I can't. Sometimes you'll know that it's from a certain particular blog or a particular thing, but in most cases, it's like 5 or 6 touches that happen for someone to eventually make a call, and they may not say that it's from reading an article in the bulletin. It might be from they say, "Oh, I got you on your website," but the fact that they saw you 3, 4, 5 times before that may not come up.
right. And what you're seeing are the fruits of your content marketing labor. And one of the best fruits is being top of mind. And so I'm sure
Yeah, well,
you're
for
top.
lawyers in particular, that's pretty critical.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so the last thing I want to kind of talk about is we've got a few minutes left is around content, but the leveraging of AI. And I think there's a lot of lawyers who, and for good reason, are hesitant to, take a dive into AI. I think there are some safe ways to play it, and marketing is one of those places where I think it's pretty safe as opposed to, altering contracts or doing things that, ultimately, could get a lawyer into trouble. I think marketing is a good way to start into AI. Can you talk a little bit about how AI is changing content creation and making it easier and better for people?
It is changing exponentially, meteorically. I mean, when
Yeah.
ChatGPT launched in 22 and really grew in popularity beginning in 23, it was such a game changer. I mean, we've always known, like, I mean, AI has been around since the 1950s, but I think really until, at least for a writer, until ChatGPT hit the scene, it was always running in the background, right? Algorithms, this, that, and now it's so turnkey. Um, and it's incredibly powerful. It can do a lot. It does scare me at times. It is a great way. It's a great time saver, right? It's a great way to help you synthesize, say, the raw materials of content. Now, using it safely is important, right? I mean, you have to know how to be a responsible user of it. You can't rubber stamp anything it creates. It plagiarizes, it tends to go off track. It does this thing called the hallucination of facts, where it will just create totally fabricated information. And when it comes to attorneys, I mean, I would suppose they have to be especially careful. And obviously, you can't put any sensitive information in there. And I would think uh, when it comes to briefs and things like that, I don't know that AI would be the right tool to use. But when I work with attorneys, and if I'm leveraging AI for content, again, I mean, I'm creating the original content, and I may use it for the organization of that content or for some structure or help me with some keywords, but you have to know how to use it. And as a practitioner, I could smell rubber stamped AI that hasn't gone through QC from a mile away. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, I'm used to the format, the formula, the words.
Yeah. I like the way it cleans things up. So let's say I come up with a title for a presentation that I want to do. Okay. And I'll put that in. I'll say, hey, make this better. That could be that simple and it'll make it better. Or I could say, just it's all about the prompts, like putting in, this is specifically for attorneys, solos and small firm, on the topic of business development, and I want it to have some, have a real punch to it. And then it'll pop up a title and I'll be like, damn, that's so much better than what I came up with. And
Right.
I think that's what we're really looking for is a way to either get people some content that they can put up on social, just to have some content up there that might be good enough, or maybe to start writing something and just clean it up enough where, it could be an article that you have some outline on, but you plug it in, next thing you know, you've got a 2-page article in 15 minutes.
Right. And I mean, a lot quicker than that. You mentioned the prompts, and the prompts are important. But what's remarkable about about ChatGPT and Copilot and Gemini, the others, is that after you give it a few prompts, you don't have to remind it because it learns your style and it's constantly updating its memory, where you can just give it, rather than 2 or 3 sentences, you could give it a one-word command, and it will give you the output you need based on its learning and its memory.
So if I have to do, like, let's say 5 transcripts of this podcast into articles, I could do it once and then in the second time just say do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you got to play with it too.
Yeah.
Right. It might take a few prompts, but I would start there. It,
Any
it
any advantage the paid over the free versions?
right. So I could speak mainly to ChatGPT. The Yeah, there's certainly advantages, and they are it's faster, the quality is better, and what I mean by that is the accuracy of the content. And with the free versions, you have limitations on data, right? You could only get, or you can only give X amount of prompts per hour, and you also have word count and character limits. The paid versions, there really aren't those limits, and everything's just more efficient.
Okay.
But I would tell people who haven't dabbled yet to start with the free version because it could probably meet their needs.
Yeah. I mean, let's wrap up with kind of a final thought on this. I mean, I think business development and marketing, there's a cost to be paid today, time, money, energy to do it. But it's like the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to do it, and the more time you've sort of lost. And time is the one thing you don't want to lose. You can't get it back. So I feel like I started this podcast, even though it was 5 years ago, 5 years later than I wanted to. Well, I'm dealing with that, but it turned out okay. But people that don't want to get involved in marketing, they don't want to post, they don't want to do anything like that, and they wait. And it's like you're either a part of the game, you're in the game, or you're not in the game. And the people that are in the game are gonna be that much further ahead of you in 5 years. Thoughts, commentary on that type of a kind of that kind of situation?
Yeah, don't be a dinosaur.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough.
Right. As long as you are working with someone who knows what they're doing, you you can't market enough, right?
Yeah.
You
Or
if you
become a store, become a student of the game. I mean, you can read books on marketing. You could read books on networking. You could read books on how to do a podcast. There's YouTube videos. Like there are DIY ways to get things done. Um, is it better to hire someone to produce my podcast, like turnkey podcast? Hell yeah. I don't want to do this stuff, and they're very good at it. Why don't I focus on the interviews and let them focus on editing and production? So like there's that side. That doesn't mean I don't know anything about podcasting. I still want to be educated enough to know what's what.
well,
But I
sure.
think, delegation, finding good people in your corner, and delegating to experts and delegating to people who it's their jam, like you do. I think
I
that's wise.
I could not agree more.
All right. I didn't think you'd argue with me on that for some reason.
No,
Um,
no.
all right, so let's wrap up with Game Changing Podcast. I'm a big Bill Maher fan, and I haven't listened to his podcast yet. It's called Club Random. And
Yeah.
what do they do? They just talk politics on there, or what do they talk about?
No, it's so
Just maybe it's random. It's in the
he's
title.
got this cool setup in his house. It's kind of like a smoker's lounge. Go figure. He's a big
Yeah.
pothead.
Okay.
And compared to his show Real Time, he's they're like an hour long, and he has celebrity on, and they are talking like they would if the cameras weren't on them.
Yeah.
And Bill is always smoking a joint, and he drinks a little tequila, and of course his guests are invited to imbibe as well.
Yeah.
But they there's no agenda. It's just very organic. And look, Bill's very smart, and he lets you know it. And he's got that strong personality. He's smug. It turns a lot of people off, but he really knows how to interview his guests. He'll challenge them, and each podcast also has video to it. We were talking about video. And I think it's intelligent, introspective, and yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I will check that out. Thank you. Listen, everybody, as we wrap, I want to thank our sponsors, of course, Rankings IO. They get you more than rankings; they get you cases. Check them out, and of course, our Rainmakers Roundtable. This is what I'm running with top rainmakers and managing partners who are growth oriented all over the country. If that's you or someone that you know that you think would want to be in a room with other successful rainmakers, talking shop and learning from each other and sharing problems and solutions and all that, just email me at steve@fretzin.com, or you can contact me through my website, fretzin.com. David, people want to reach out to you. They want to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to have this brilliant guy take over my marketing and really help us get to the next level, how do they reach you?
Go to my website, davidtelisman.com. Email me at david@davidtelisman.com. Call me 224-645-2748. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube.
You're everywhere.
I'm everywhere.
All right. Very good. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on the show and having this conversation. I think, content management, marketing, is so critical today. And it's very hard to be successful on social media if that's one of your goals, if you don't have content. So again, I have tons of content and people think I'm spending all this time posting and doing, yeah, it's my content, but I have someone working for me that does this for me. So it's not something you just have to, suffer in silence on your own. There's places to delegate and people who can handle that type of thing. But thank you, David, for coming on and sharing your wisdom, man. I appreciate it. And we're going to see you soon at a Provisors meeting. Shout out to Provisors.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. Good times, man. And thank you, everybody, for spending time with Dave and I on the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast every single week, twice a week, bringing you good ideas and ways to grow your law practice and be that lawyer. Confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Take care, everybody. We'll talk again soon.